Physics class 11 chapter 7 systems of particles and rotational motion. In the last class we have studied kinematic of rotational motion. Today we shall study dynamics of rotational motion. It is a branch of mechanics that is concerned with effect of forces on the motion of the objects. So dynamic of rotational motion or dynamic is a branch of mechanics that is concerned with the forces on the motion of the object. We know that the rotational motion, moment of inertia and torque play the same role as mass and force in linear motion. So we have studied that in rotational motion the moment of inertia is equal to mass in linear motion and torque is equal to torque force in linear motion. Okay, this we have studied in previous classes. Now for our calculation of torques on a rigid body we have got two rules. So number one is consider only those forces that are lie in planes perpendicular to the axis. So we consider only those forces which are lying in the planes and perpendicular to the axis, and the forces which are parallel to the axis will give torques perpendicular to the axis and need not be taken into account. Okay, so we consider the forces which lie in the plane and perpendicular to the axis. We consider only those forces. And number two is consider only those components of the position vectors which are perpendicular to the axis. So here also we consider the component of the position vectors which are perpendicular to the axis. Components of position vectors parallel to the axis will result in torques perpendicular to the axis and need not be taken into account. The components of position vector which are parallel to the axis we will not consider into the account. So with keeping these two rules in mind, we shall find now the dynamics of rotational motion. Work done by a torque. Figure is the cross section of rigid body rotating about a fixed axis Z. Let F1 be the force perpendicular to the axis and lie in the plane x dash y dash acting on the particle at point P1. So this is the cross section area of a body which is rotating. This is the rigid body which is rotating about the z axis. Okay, so this is a body which is rotating about the z axis, and this is the cross section area. There is a particle at P1 and here the force is F1. The force is perpendicular to the axis. The axis is like this and the force is inward. Okay, the force is going inside. So it is the force F1 which is perpendicular to the axis of rotation. The particle at P1 describes circular path of radius r1 with center C on the axis, therefore Cp1 equal to r1. Now the distance of this particle P1 from the center C is r1. Therefore it is rotating in a circle with the radius r1. Okay, so it is describing a circle of radius r1 with the center C on the axis. The center is on the axis, right? And therefore Cp1, the distance is taken as r1. So Cp1 equal to r1. In time delta t, point moves to the position P1 dash with displacement of particle ds1 of magnitude ds1 equal to r1 d theta and direction tangential at P1 where d theta is angular displacement. Now suppose the particle is at here P1 initially, and after time delta t it is moving, right? It is moving in a circular path. So it is moving and going to the position P1 dash. The angular displacement is d theta. Okay, this one is d theta. And when it is going from P1 to P1 dash, the distance which is cutting is ds1. Then we know the relation between the angle, this is the r, and the radius. It is given as ds1 equal to r1 d theta. Okay, so ds1 equal to r1 d theta. This is the relation between the angle, the radius, and the arc. So that is the relation. D theta is the angular displacement, and the direction is tangential at P1. So if you draw the tangent at P1, it will be towards that direction. The work done by force on particle dw1 equal to vector f1 dot ds1. Now the work done, there is a force f1 and there is a displacement ds1. So work done will be the dot product of f1 and ds1, the displacement and the force. So the work done is f1 dot ds1. Dot product is there, so we can write as f1 ds1, and dot product means cos and angle between f1 and ds1 we take as a phi1. So f1 ds1 cos phi1, where phi1 is the angle between f1 and the tangent. Okay, so this is f1 and the tangent. When you draw here at P1, the angle between them is phi1, that is taken as this angle. Okay, Now here, if you extend this R1, okay, this R1 you are extending, then the angle between this R1 and the F1, if you consider as alpha 1. Now this angle phi 1 is between F1 and the tangent. So if you draw the tangent here, okay, if you draw the tangent here like this, then it will be, this angle from here to here will be 90 degree. I mean to say, if you draw a tangent here, right, straight line, a tangent, then the tangent and this angle, this line, the radius which you are extending and the tangent you are drawing, so that angle between them will be 90 degree. That means phi 1 plus alpha 1 will give you 90 degree. Okay, so I have written here, suppose I take the angle alpha 1, okay, that is angle between F1 and the radius, then CP1, you can just neglect this part, you can just think phi 1 plus alpha 1 is equal to 90 degree, right? Phi 1 plus alpha 1 equal to 90 degree. From here, suppose you transfer phi 1 this side, so you get alpha 1 equal to 90 minus phi 1, or else you can say that, suppose you can, instead of transferring phi 1, if you transfer alpha 1, so you can get 90 degree minus alpha 1 equal to phi 1, right? Now see here, in this value phi 1, you can put the value 90 minus alpha 1, okay, instead of phi 1 you put 90 minus alpha 1. So let us put here dw1 equal to, I put here f1 ds1 ds1 cos 90 minus alpha 1, right? Now you know, if it 90 is there, cos will convert into sine, so you can write here f1 ds1 sine alpha 1, right? So I can convert cos into sine alpha 1, okay, cos into sine by using the relation, this one, 90 minus alpha 1 equal to phi 1. So using this relation, you can write cos as sine alpha 1. So I can write here, see this cos phi 1 I have written as sine alpha 1, okay, I am using this relation, or you can say this relation, okay, using the relation cos phi 1 I can write as sine alpha 1, okay, and the value of ds1, from here ds1 value is r1 theta 1, sorry, r1 theta d theta, so you can write here f1 as it is, ds1 value as r1 d theta, cos phi 1 as it is, but cos phi 1, if I use this relation and using the trigonometric identity, I can write this as a sine alpha 1. So dw1 is nothing but f1 r1 d theta sine alpha 1. Torque due to f1 tau 1 equal to cp1 cross f1. Now we consider the torque, because at this point p1, because of the force f1, that will be given as tau 1 equal to cp1 cross f1, the distance into the force, right? So cp1 will be given as r1 f1 sine alpha 1. See, this f1 is as it is, right, and cross product is there, so you can write sine alpha 1, and this cp1, what is cp1? This cp1 is the distance from c to p1, that is r1, so you can write as r1. So cp1 is r1, f1 is as it is, and if you remove the cross product, you can write as sine alpha 1, okay. That means dw1 equal to tau 1 d theta, right? dw1, this value f1 is as f1 r1 sine alpha 1, f1 r1 sine alpha 1, this value this one f1 r1 sine alpha 1, this value I can put as tau 1 and d theta remains, okay. So I can write here dw1 equal to this all value f1 r1 sine alpha 1, from using this relation I can write as tau 1, okay, and this d theta remains as it is, so d theta I have written as it is, right? So dw1, the work done because of the force f1 at particle p1 is given as dw1 equal to tau 1 d theta. If there are more than one forces acting on the body, then total work done. Now this we have taken the force which is F1, one force. Now suppose you have got more than one force, then the total work done will be taken as dw equal to tau 1 plus tau 2 plus tau 3 plus up to plus d theta, okay, this tau 1, right? But now you are taking forces more than one, so it will be tau will be written as tau 1 plus tau 2 plus tau 3 plus up to plus as many as forces are there, the torque will be given by those forces, so tau 1 plus tau 2 plus tau 3 plus up to plus d theta. D theta will remain the same, the displacement is same, okay. So this d theta will be constant, we don't change, only tau 1 plus tau 2 plus tau 3, and the total sum we can write as a tau. So dw is equal to tau into d theta. So dw equal to tau d theta is the work done by total external torque which acts on the body rotating about fixed axis. So this is the work done by the torque, which is external torque, which acts on a body which is rotating about a fixed axis. Now suppose you divide this on both the side by dt. So I divide here by dt, so dw by dt equal to tau d theta by dt. But dw by dt is nothing but power p equal to tau, and d theta by dt is nothing but the angular velocity omega. So this is omega and this is p. So power p equal to tau omega, and this is instantaneous power. This is your instantaneous power, p equal to tau omega. Tau is the torque and omega is the angular velocity. And this is similar to the linear motion, p equal to f into v. F is the force, here tau is the force, and v is the velocity, here omega is the angular velocity, here linear velocity. So this is similar to the linear motion, the power p equal to f into v. So p equal to tau into omega. This is for the rotational body. The work done by external torque is not dissipated, as for a perfectly rigid body there is no internal motion and it increases kinetic energy. Now the work done by external torque is not dissipated. Dissipated means not gone waste. Why? Because in a perfect rigid body there is no internal motion. The body is fixed, right? So there is no internal motion. So the torque or the force, the external torque which you are applying is not wasted or not used for the internal motion, right? So what happens? The external torque which you are applying, which it will be only increasing the kinetic energy of the body, right? So it will be only used, the external torque which is used, the work done by the external torque is used in increasing the kinetic energy. Now we know the kinetic energy is given as 1 by 2 I omega square. This is for the rotational body, that k is equal to 1 by 2 I omega square, right? Now differentiate with respect to time. So this is dk by dt equal to 1 by 2 I constant d by dt of omega square equal to 1 by 2 I omega square. We know the formula to differentiate, and when you differentiate this, it is 2 omega into d omega by dt. 2 cut, so you get I and omega, and d omega by dt is nothing but the angular acceleration alpha. So what we have proved is dk by dt is equal to I omega alpha. So dk by dt equal to I omega alpha. So this is the change in or increase in the kinetic energy. Here kinetic energy is increasing because the torque which you are applying is only used for the increasing the kinetic energy. So it is dk by dt equal to I omega alpha. I is the moment of inertia, omega is the angular velocity, and alpha is the angular acceleration. Equating rates of work done and of increase in kinetic energy. So work done is, we use this one omega in tau into d theta, and the increase in the kinetic energy, that is I omega alpha. We equate these two equations. Okay, so when we equate, here is tau into d theta and here is I omega alpha. Now this, sorry, not work done but rate of work done. Okay, you have to equate the rate of work done. So rate of work done, this is work done. Rate of work done is dw by dt. Okay, so rate of work done is dw by dt, not this one. Okay, this is work done, but we have to equate rate of work done. So rate of work done is dw by dt, and that is tau omega. So tau omega and increase in kinetic energy, that is I omega alpha. So you have to compare this tau omega and I omega alpha. So I compare this one, tau omega is equal to I omega alpha. So here omega occurs, so here you remain tau equal to, here remains I into alpha, and this is similar to the Newton's second law, F is equal to ma. This is Newton's second law in linear motion. F is equal to ma. M is the mass and a is the acceleration and f is the force. So here tau is the torque, I is the moment of inertia, and alpha is the angular acceleration. And we know that I is analog to mass and angular acceleration is analog to acceleration. Okay, so this is nothing but your Newton's second law in rotational motion. So tau is equal to I alpha is the Newton's second law in rotational motion. And if you compare this with the linear motion, that F is equal to ma. Just as force produces acceleration, torque produces angular acceleration. Okay, so we know that the force produces acceleration in a linear motion. Similarly, in a rotational motion, torque will produce angular acceleration. From this tau equal to I alpha, we can say that angular acceleration, that is alpha, is directly proportional to tau. So if you say alpha is directly proportional to tau, that is torque, and is inversely proportional to moment of inertia, and this alpha, if you transfer I in the denominator, you can say alpha is inversely proportional to I, that is moment of inertia. So alpha is, that is angular acceleration, is directly proportional to tau, and angular acceleration is inversely proportional to I, that is moment of inertia. Okay, remember that here equating the rates of work done. Rates of work done is dw by dt. Okay, so that is this one, tau into omega, and increase the kinetic energy. Okay, there was a mistake, I had taken the work done. Okay, it is not comparing the work done but rates of work done. Okay, so this is work done, but rate of work done is dw by dt, and that is tau omega, which we proved here. Okay, so these and these you are equating, increasing in the kinetic energy, change in the kinetic energy. So dw by dt equal to dk by dt, and so you are equating omega, tau into omega, and I omega alpha, and you get the relation Newton's second law in rotational motion. Okay, omega tau is equal to I into alpha. We'll keep this much for today. Thank you very much.